Our story begins in a hospital, in a conversation within the psychiatric department. A doctor is observing a patient's file, which states that no matter what the patient sees, the only thing he will perceive is pigs. The patient in front of her simply nods his head in agreement, confirming what's in the file. The woman is a bit skeptical but decides to put it to the test. She starts to approach the boy and asks if in his eyes she looks like a pig. The young man stares at her with a fixed gaze. To him, she does indeed look like a pig, as that's all he can see at that moment. The doctor comments that this is the first time she's ever heard of such a thing. Then she gives him a serious look and says he is a handsome young man. Without much delay, she begins to unbutton her blouse, stating that she will set aside his previous comment to test if his basic instincts still work. The boy keeps his eyes fixed on her, not believing what is happening. With a provocative look, the doctor asks what he is seeing now. In her mind, she still doubts him, considering herself too beautiful for even a madman to see her as a pig. But what the young man is seeing at that moment is just pigs. His response was unexpected: "It's two big pigs." The woman quickly covers herself up and calls him crazy, her face a mask of utter disbelief. Regaining her composure, she changes the subject and claims his problem is in his spinal column, warning that it is quite serious. Using a model of a spine, she points to a spot where his is different, explaining that the part is so deformed it's compressing his cerebral and optic nerves. With a look of shock, the boy asks what they can do. The doctor replies that the only solution is surgery but warns that the success rate is very low, and if they fail he could be paralyzed from the neck down. The boy becomes scared and doesn't believe what she's saying. He then asks if she's done talking. The woman is surprised when, with a determined look, he walks toward her and asks if she can give him his spine back. At that moment, the woman gives an awkward smile, not believing he thinks the model is his. She feels sorry for the boy as she finds him handsome. Leaving the hospital, the boy is at a bus stop, heading to another location. A bit sleepy, he holds his test results. His name is Ye Chuan, and for as long as he can remember, everything he sees looks like pigs. This is his view on the bus. Everyone around him is just a pig. He wonders if the problem is because his parents are butchers. He reflects that it doesn't affect his life much, but it's quite annoying when he wants to meet a partner. He mentions that today is the day of the awakening of classes, and that he wanted to solve this problem beforehand. He is upset that he couldn't and that the only thing he got was a diagnosis of a severe mental illness. Arriving at the examination school, there is a giant stone in front of it and a crowd of people. The boy wonders if this illness will affect his class, and if so, it will be a problem. Before long, someone calls his name. It's a girl who is relieved he arrived and says that if he had been late, she would have beaten him up. But the only thing he sees is a pig. The girl starts hitting him playfully and asks if he heard her, but our boy is quite startled. Soon, other people call out to her, revealing her name is Ling Shen. The group asks why she is with that boy again and questions if they have to be together every day. One of the guys comments that they are childhood sweethearts and will probably get married soon. The girl blushes and tells them to stop talking nonsense. Our boy Ye Chuan feels a little uncomfortable because, as we know, he is seeing her as a pig. In the middle of the crowd, near the stone, the director begins to speak. He orders everyone to line up according to their student ID because the awakening ceremony is about to begin. He announces that now is the time to show what they have learned all this time in school and explains that the awakening is based on strength, agility, and spirit, these being the three main attributes. The higher they are, the more advanced their class will be. He encourages everyone to use their full strength during the awakening, as the class they receive will affect the rest of their lives. The first in line approaches the stone. Following the director's instructions, he places his hand on it and begins to exert all his strength. An energy emanates from the stone, revealing that he has received a mundane class, intermediate mechanic. The boy is devastated, and the director looks a little sad. The next one also gets a mundane class, advanced doctor. The following one in turn also receives a mundane class, inferior engineer. The boy drops to his knees and starts screaming, but the next student approaches cautiously, heading straight for the stone. He is trembling, not wanting to receive anything weak. When he puts his hand on the stone, it begins to glow with a golden light and reveals his class, a combat class, shadowless sword of rare rank. The boy is surprised and gets goosebumps while the director's jaw drops. The crowd behind is shocked, unable to believe what they are seeing. With a wide smile, the director asks for the student's name. The student, already full of arrogance, replies that his name is Liv Jean Long. The director puts a hand on his shoulder, praises his name, and tells him to rest, as he will personally visit his home later to discuss his life plan. Confidently, he thanks the director and slowly leaves the area, while others call him an incredible brother. As soon as he leaves, the director calls the next name, Ye Chuan. The girl in the back wishes him good luck, but our boy walks dejectedly toward the stone. The director, looking at the boy, thinks he seems to have some kind of mental problem but knows his attributes are high, so he has some expectations. Normally, a person's attributes max out out at 3, and Ye Chuans are 3 times more than a normal person. The boy places his hand on the stone, which begins to shine intensely. The director wonders if a miracle is about to happen. The stone emanates an overwhelming energy, startling the director and leaving the crowd in disbelief. At that moment, the director is speechless at the energy, as he realizes our boy has received a divine awakening class. The boy himself is surprised to see the confirmation, but when the dust settles, the full class name is revealed and the director is in shock. Ye Chuan has received the butcher class. Everyone in the back starts to laugh and wonder if there's something wrong with the stone since he got a divine class. They mock him, questioning if there's another class as silly as this one and whether our boy is lucky or unlucky. The director is incredulous and asks if God is playing a trick on him. He says he has been a director for many years and this is the first time he has encountered a divine class, but he couldn't believe it would be something so useless. He laments that even a blacksmith, doctor, or alchemist would be better and would have brought him more honor. He puts his hand on his face and thinks that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment, as he believed this boy would be promising. The director tries to speak to him but gives up and just mutters to himself. At that moment, a screen appears before our boy, and he wonders what the hell it is as it's the first time he's seen the system. It states that he is a first-degree apprentice, showing his strength, agility, and spirit attributes, as well as something special, his class title. The title is Nemesis of the Pig Clan, and comes with 3 skills. The first, God-Slaying Blade, grants 50% more damage to pigs, with the talent increasing by 1% for every pig he kills, and reduces damage received from pigs by 50%. The second, Pig-Slaying Knife, allows him, if he selects a weapon, for every pig killed by it to grant 0.1 free attribute points. The third is Dark Blood Butcher, which releases his killing aura, causing a second of fear in nearby pigs. Seeing this, our boy realizes that being mentally ill isn't so bad after all. In his eyes, the world is infested with pigs, and all he can see is a giant slaughterhouse. Since his evaluation is over, he decides to leave. As he walks down the stairs, people continue to laugh at him, especially the one who got the rare class, Live Jean Long. The jerk comments that he thought the city's academy would produce a real dragon, but he never expected it to be a pig butcher. A psychic next to him starts sucking up, saying the only real dragon there is the redhead. The arrogant boy replies that he's a great friend but is joking too much. When our boy approaches the girl, Ling Shen, she asks if he's okay. She starts to pat his head and tells him not to be so sad about awakening as a divine butcher, as he can follow in his father's footsteps. Meanwhile, the guys on the side are angry and dying of envy. One of them starts biting his shirt, saying that our boy must have accumulated luck for several lifetimes. The girl adds that his uncle and her father will also be very happy. In his thoughts, our protagonist reflects that he and Ling Shen have been neighbors since they were little. Their parents have normal professions and have always tried to bring the two closer. The director calls the next name and it's the girl's turn. She walks smiling toward the stone, wondering if she will inherit her mother's tailor profession or her father's winemaker profession. Our protagonist, meanwhile, wears a face that shows he couldn't care less. When she places her hand on the stone, a cold, bright light envelopes it, and everyone watching feels a slight chill. The girl is surprised by what she sees, and even the director is wide-eyed and open-mouthed. She has received a legendary profession, a combat class, Saint of the Spiritual Snow Sword. The girl immediately starts to show an air of superiority, and the director still can't believe it, since it's a legendary profession and her parents only have common ones, which is very unusual. The cold air begins to envelop the girl, and the director quickly tries to strike up a conversation with her. He says that if she needs anything in the future, she can count on him and the academy, as they will do everything to help her. The girl thanks him and begins to walk down, a clear expression of superiority on her face. The other girls comment that the day has had many surprises, with a divine class pig butcher and a legendary combat profession. One of them then asks if Ling Shen will still follow our boy around as before. Her friend can't believe the question and replies that obviously she has progressed far beyond him. Meanwhile, the other girls comment about Ling Shen, and one of them says that if Ye Chuan has a shred of common sense, he will distance himself from her on his own. When Ling Shen approaches our boy, he congratulates her, but without changing his indifferent expression. Seeing this, the girl gets his attention, saying that they may have had some disagreements before, but from now on, everything is resolved because they are not the same as they were. Our boy just listens, maintaining the same empty expression. The people in the background start to smile and gossip, as they already imagine what she's going to say. And indeed, our boy understands the message instantly and replies that it's okay with him. However, she continues, saying that it might be difficult for him, but he doesn't need to pretend to be strong. She belittles him, stating that he is just a butcher, that he will never achieve anything great, and that he shouldn't blame her for it. Once again, the protagonist seems not to care at all. With an arrogant expression, she concludes that if he has no objections, she hopes he won't bother her anymore. Our boy turns without replying and starts to walk away, thinking to himself that he's finally gotten rid of her. He then tells her that if that's all, he's leaving. At that moment, that jerk, Liv Jinlong, appears and asks her if she wants him to teach the boy a lesson. The woman doesn't answer but casts a contemptuous look in Ye Chuan's direction. Taking the hint, the psychic starts to call and curse at our boy, telling him to come back. However, Ye Chuan keeps walking, completely ignoring him. Liv Jinlong doesn't understand the attitude, considers it an affront, and runs toward him, asking if he's deaf. He grabs our boy's arm, who slowly turns and asks if he has a problem. As he faces the bully, our boy's expression changes. The bully takes a step back, visibly frightened. In his thoughts, he wonders what happened, as Ye Chuan's gaze made him feel like a pig tied to a cutting board, just waiting to be slaughtered. The crowd in the background starts to laugh at his reaction, and his sycophantic sidekick tries to help him, asking what's wrong. Not wanting to back down, the bully calls out to our boy again. He clenches his fist and moves forward, asking how he dares to look at him like that. Our protagonist, seeing this, turns and doesn't let it slide, preparing his own punch. When their two fists meet, there's a small explosion in the air, but the one who gets the worst of it is the bully. His fist is broken. Ling Shen and the director wonder what happened. The injured boy finds it impossible, saying that he's just a pig butcher and questioning how he can be so strong. Our hero turns and replies that he is a simple butcher, and that it makes sense since the one in front of him is a pig. As the crowd wonders what's happening, everyone looks at the bully's mangled hand. Screaming, the bully vows to finish our boy. He prepares to attack again. The two girls with him comment that Brother Jinlong has gotten serious and that our boy is about to get beaten. The other wonders how a butcher dares to challenge someone with a combat class. The bully summons a void blade, saying it cuts through steel like paper, but our boy retorts that he isn't carrying any steel. The attacker lunges forward, promising to cripple our boy, but at that moment, it begins to snow. Suddenly, the bully realizes he can't move his body, which begins to freeze over. He looks to the side and asks why Ling Shen is trying to protect Ye Chuan. Ling Shen tells them to stop, stating she doesn't want anyone fighting over her. She approaches our boy and says they no longer belong to the same world and that it's better for him to stop. She says this is the last time she's helping him and that he should consider it a farewell to the past. While our boy is scratching his ear, she tells him to leave. She turns and advises him to leave the academy, because otherwise, Jinlong will seek revenge, and if that happens she won't protect him again. Our boy turns and says that if she has nothing more to say, he's leaving. The other two girls can't believe what's happening, commenting that he seems not to care about anything. Far from there, as our boy walks down the street, an old woman is walking her dog, which starts barking at him. Ye Chuan is already annoyed by the situation, and the two start to irritate him with the pig dog barking non-stop. The animal bites our protagonist's pants, and he tells the woman to get her beast out of the way so he can pass. The woman gets angry, brings her pig-like face close to the boy, and says he has no manners, complaining that today's youth has no compassion for animals. At that moment, our boy takes a deep breath and finds the situation perfect to test a theory. He kicks the dog in the stomach, sending it flying. The woman runs towards her pet and starts crying as its soul leaves its body. Immediately, he receives a system notification: "You have slaughtered a small pig," gaining some attributes from it. He is surprised and realizes his ability really works. The woman, furious, confronts our boy, asking how he dared to kill her baby, and vowing to fight him to the end. The boy then looks at her and says he has mental problems, showing her the medical report that states severe mental illness. He asks if she has anything to say, and if not, he's leaving. The woman realizes she's messed with a psycho and that if he hadn't attacked the dog, he might have attacked her. Her expression changes completely, and she says it's no problem, telling the boy to take care of his health. Sometime later, back at his house, his father is a bit excited and asks if it's true that he became a butcher. With his typical deadpan expression, he replies yes. The father is overjoyed, saying the boy takes after him and questioning what the problem would be with being a simple and honest butcher. He claims it's much better than going around the world looking for fights and announces that the next day, he will take him to see the slaughterhouse. Night falls and our boy in his pig pajamas sleeps like a rock. Suddenly, a shadow appears and circles his parents' room. The boy's father tells the shadow that it must have heard his son is just a butcher and orders it not to disturb him anymore. The shadow seems unable to believe that the son of the ghost howl became a simple butcher and asks if the boy is really his son. At that moment, the father opens his eyes and looks directly at the shadow. He warns it that he already told it not to come to this place and that next time he won't be so polite. The shadow apologizes, telling him not to be angry since his son is a simple butcher. The entity says it will contact the organization and tell them not to bother him anymore. Shortly after, the shadow disappears. The next day, his father takes him to the slaughterhouse, just to get him familiarized. The two go to a certain place because his father wants to show him something. He explains that a good butcher must start with a good knife and asks the boy to choose one that fits his hand best. Our protagonist looks at the knives and quickly picks one, feeling it's perfect. The system then appears, notifying him that the slaughter knife has been selected and the god-slaying blade skill has been activated. At that moment, his father brings a small pig and says that, as a good butcher, his first step is to learn how to use the knife. The pig starts to squeal desperately. The father instructs him to aim for the animal's weak spot to give it a quick, one-hit death. Our hero positions the cleaver over the pig and slaughters it with precision. Immediately, the system notifies him of the progress points gained and the increase in his skills. His father, surprised, says he did very well but laments that his aim wasn't perfect, explaining that to kill in one go, he needs to hit the jugular. Our boy looks at him, confused. With a gentle gesture, his father pats his head and says that slaughtering pigs can be a bit tiring and boring, especially for his age, but explains that this is how they live. But our boy is not very concerned about that. He points to the other pigs and asks if he can kill them too. The father beams with a huge smile, happy, and says that if he wants, he can even kill his uncle's pigs. And so our hero begins. Following his father's advice, he hits the jugular of each one, while the system notifies him with every kill. He repeats the process over and over, and with each pig he kills, his skill advances in rank. By the end of the day, he had slaughtered many pigs. Looking at his status window, he sees that all his attributes have risen from 10 to 15, and his skill level is already at rank 5. His father and uncle are amazed. The uncle, very surprised, asks how our hero got so addicted to killing pigs, as he did a week's worth of work in a single day. The father, with a proud smile, replies that his son is a divine-grade pig butcher. Our protagonist, looking at his little knife, realizes he's already gotten used to using it and thinks this is the best time to go adventuring outside. The next day he grabs his backpack, ready to begin his adventure. In this world, there are various races of demons scattered everywhere. Humanity is no longer divided by countries but united in the Human Federation, organized into 9 districts. The city where our boy lives is on the border of the 5th district. He goes straight to this border, where 2 guards protect the exit. One of them stops our boy and gives him a warning. Since he has a common profession, he should stay within a 1-kilometer radius. Otherwise, his life will be at risk. He asks if the boy understood, and our boy just grunts yes. After some time in the forest, he starts to hear noises and becomes alert. Before long, a goblin jumps at him. Since our boy can only see pigs, he tries to identify the creature by its color and deduces it's a goblin. He sees this as a great opportunity to use his skill, the Shadow Butcher. At that moment, the goblin, looking at our boy, begins to feel an overwhelming fear, and the boy simply runs his blade across its neck. The system appears, and with the notification, the protagonist realizes that the stronger the pig he kills, the more bonuses he will gain. As he observes this, he becomes very thoughtful. But this calm doesn't last long, as he needs to stay alert. His teacher had warned him that finding a lone goblin means he has already been marked by an entire group waiting to attack. At that moment, he realizes he's going to level up a lot and tells the goblin pigs to come at him. The goblins advance towards him as if he were easy prey, trying to overwhelm him with numbers. However, our boy simply runs his blade through each one, aiming for the jugular just as his father taught him. In a short time, only one goblin remains, already trembling with fear. With an intimidating look, he calls his new little friend to play. The goblin, terrified, runs away, not wanting to die now. However, our boy is not going to let his prey escape. After some time, he finds the goblin cave and decides to enter. With a smile on his face, he knows he's going to get a good amount of experience. It doesn't take long for the goblin's screams to echo through the cave, as our boy has just committed a massacre. The system notifies him that all his skills have been improved and that his extra damage to pigs is now 120%. While observing his progress, he hears a noise. Looking back, he sees the sound is coming from behind a door. Our boy kicks it down. The people on the other side can only see his terrifying aura. What he finds is a girl tied up, with several goblins around her. Trembling, the girl starts to cry for help. Our boy sees her shaking and she, afraid, begs him not to kill her. He then swings his blade all around her, and the woman, already crying, realizes he only hit the goblins. Our boy cuts the ropes binding her, and the woman lets out a scream. He tells her to stop screaming because he has already killed all the goblins. She looks around and sees it's true. At that moment, she hugs him and thanks him for saving her, saying she was almost killed by those goblins. But since our boy can't feel attraction to anyone, he coldly replies that he didn't come to this place to save her. As they walk out, she asks if he was the one who killed all the goblins, finding him incredible and assuming he has a good combat class. She then asks for his name, and he replies that it's Ye Chuan. When they exit the cave, he points in a direction and says that she just needs to follow that path to get to the city. Having said that, he goes back to walking through the forest. But the girl didn't follow his advice and is hiding behind a tree. Our boy notices and asks why she's following him. The girl, startled by his expression, denies it and says she's just scared to go back alone. He says he understands, asks for her name and what she was doing there. She replies that her name is Shin and that her mother's birthday is in a few days, so she wanted to find a bloody water flower to give as a gift, but ended up being captured by the goblins. Then she proposes a deal, pointing to his weapon. She says that if he helps her find the flower, she will ask the best blacksmith in the city to forge a blade for him. Our boy turns and asks if she knows how much it costs for the best blacksmith in the city to forge a blade. He tells her to go back to the city and stop following him. The girl is confused and thinks to herself that she is beautiful and cute, wondering how he can be so cold and assuming he must have a problem in his head. She continues to follow him and asks if he doesn't know who she is, revealing that her father is Xia Beihai. Our boy stops walking as he recognizes that name. He knows that the Xia family is one of the 4 great families in the city and that the patriarch, Xia Beihai, is a 9th level master, just 1 step away from becoming a grandmaster. With a mischievous smile, he turns to her and asks if she's serious, because he knows that if it's true, her father has enough money to buy him 10 butcher knives. To prove she's telling the truth, she shows him her family's protective talisman, explaining that it's a defensive item her father gave her and that not even an Ascendant Realm Master could hurt her. The problem was that the goblins, being treacherous, captured her through an ambush, and since they couldn't get close to her, they simply locked her up. Our boy takes a close look at the talisman, and the girl, seeing his gaze, gets a little embarrassed. Our boy returns to his normal demeanor and says he believes her, agreeing to help her find the flower if she helps him get a high-level blade. The girl is surprised but quickly accepts the offer, and the two seal a contract right there. She then takes out a map she was keeping to find the flower and shows him the location. However, she warns that to get the flower, they will have to face the bloody water serpent, which is quite dangerous. Our boy becomes thoughtful about the giant snake. The girl explains that her guide warned her that the serpent has strength similar to a level 9 apprentice, and she doesn't know if her current strength will be enough. However, our boy gives a big smile and says he's never seen a giant snake before. The girl, hearing this, wonders if he even listened to her. Still, she decides to trust him, since he managed to wipe out a goblin tribe on his own, so he probably has a divine combat class. Our boy gives her a smile and tells her to go on ahead. She's a bit worried and thinks that he gives off a sense of confidence, but at the same time, doesn't seem trustworthy at all. After some time, the two are hiding. The girl points to what's in front of them, a silver-horned rhinoceros, and warns that they can't provoke it because when it gets angry, its strength is equivalent to a level 8 apprentice. She suggests they just sneak past, but our boy stands up and she asks what he's doing. He shouts and declares that if the beast dares to eat grass today, it might decide to eat them tomorrow, and therefore he can't leave it alive. The girl is shocked and wonders what kind of unhinged logic that is. Quickly, our boy charges towards the rhinoceros, which wasn't expecting it at all. He readies his cleaver and lands several blows on the pig rhinoceros. It doesn't take long for the beast to fall dead to the ground. The girl, seeing this, is dumbfounded, wondering how he managed to kill that creature in a single attack. After our boy defeats that rhinoceros, the system notifies him that his level has increased. Now he is an apprentice level 7, and the silver-horned pig rhinoceros has been slain. His extra damage against pigs has increased to 122%. Seeing this, he is quite surprised. Then he looks at his little knife and wonders if it will hold out for a while longer. At that moment, his companion asks what his class is. Our boy replies that he is a pig killer. In other words, a butcher. The girl finds this impossible and questions how an everyday class managed to defeat that rhinoceros with just one strike. The boy just ignores it, cuts off the rhinoceros's horn, and asks if it really is a good item. Then he decides to answer. He says that probably the rhinoceros had a low level and that's why it died so quickly. The girl swallows the excuse and warns that they are almost arriving at the place, but when looking at his reaction, she deduces that he is not lying. It doesn't take long before they decide to leave that place. Only not too far away, there is a group walking through the forest along with the academy's director. The man comments that everyone did well in the practical training and in thought, says that he already expected this, since he has a special student and places a lot of hope in her. The little playboy just looks at her and smiles like an idiot. At that moment, the director senses something and claims he heard something. He starts shouting, asking who is there, and orders them to show themselves immediately. Who appears as our boy with his colleague. They approach, curious about the number of people gathered. The playboy smiles desperately and asks what the boy is doing there. Our boy just scratches his head and replies that he is just passing through. The other gets irritated, not believing him. Then a girl in the back shouts that this is a lie. She says he probably didn't surpass Ling Shen and that now he must be chasing after her, like an abandoned dog. Our boy looks at the group without surprise, but he is bothered to see his ex-colleague, who, unsurprisingly, appears with a pig face. She says she had already made it clear the last time and reminds him that now they belong to different worlds, telling him to stop bothering her. At that moment, the boy's hand trembles, wanting to slice someone because right in front of him, there is a big pig. The playboy shouts, asking how he dares to appear before him again and says this is perfect because he was wanting to find him. Right after, he pulls out his sword and threatens to finish off our protagonist. The sycophant in the back is surprised by the playboy's weapon, comments about its shine, and asks if it is a lower yellow-level spiritual weapon. The director beside him confirms and, in thought, says that in just a few days, Jean Lewin has already become a level 4 apprentice and even managed to forge a spiritual weapon of that level. He is surprised and thinks to himself that he was not mistaken in believing that the boy could face even a level 6 apprentice. The ex-colleague watches and comments that she had already warned the protagonist, stating that this time she will not help him like back in the academy. Our boy's companion, confused, asks what kind of history he has with those people, but the boy just asks how much a lower stage yellow-level spiritual weapon is worth. The girl replies that probably a few $100,000, but she asks if he still hasn't understood the situation. The playboy, irritated by the conversation, declares in thought that the protagonist stole all the attention the last time. He charges forward, saying that this time it will be different. He leaps toward the boy, promising to take everything back and show Ling Shen that he is a real man. Our boy raises the little knife and defends the attack. The people in the back can hardly believe what they see. But the playboy, irritated, applies too much force and in a short time, breaks the protagonist's little knife. The boy, disappointed, just watches while the other smiles victoriously. Then the playboy shouts, calling him a mere arrogant butcher and guarantees that he will finish him off no matter what. The director comments that a common blade is as fragile as paper before a spiritual weapon and wonders why the boy dared to provoke him. Our protagonist throws away the remains of the little knife and declares that he doesn't need to put in effort to deal with trash like that. The extra character gets irritated, saying that he is too cocky, and warns him not to blame him for the violence. He charges at the boy again, but this time the protagonist remains still, waiting. At the moment the extra gets closer, he prepares and lands a punch in the extra's stomach, sending him flying. The director is surprised. The sycophant runs to his colleague, worried, and asks if he is alright. The extra just groans, trying to hide the pain, but in thought says that he almost fainted and that now he needs to hold on. The director looks at the protagonist, understands the situation, and asks if he has already reached level 7 apprentice. At that instant, our boy crouches down and picks up the spiritual weapon that the extra dropped on the ground. Looking at that knife, he says it has a very good blade and already thanks his friend for the gift. "Thank you, Jinglong, you are a true friend." That bootlicker in the back doesn't believe that our boy became a level 7 apprentice, since his sister Ling Shen is still at level 6. The director explains that this is possible, because support and combat professions work differently. He says that those in combat need to train a lot at the beginning, fight, get hurt, gain experience. That's why the initial evolution is quite slow. But once they reach a certain level, the progression becomes faster. As for those with a support profession, they follow a smoother path. Alchemists and craftsmen don't need to fight, only devote themselves entirely to their profession. The director adds that, since our boy is a butcher, in the beginning he will only need to kill pigs to evolve. Ling Shen in the back doesn't believe what she hears and complains that the boy is just taking advantage of the attributes. Then she asks the director if this isn't unfair to combat professions. The director tries to reassure her, saying that every time our boy advances, the number of pigs he needs to kill literally doubles, and when he reaches the entry realm, the amount will be absurd. On the other hand, those with combat professions already master techniques from the start, and when they evolve, the growth is much faster. Then, the bootlicker says that our boy only defeated his colleague because of the level, but in a few years he will fall behind. He asks the director if his reasoning is correct, and the director confirms it. Our boy, hearing this, becomes quite interested, but it doesn't take long before he decides to leave and waves goodbye to everyone. Hearing the explanation, Ling Shen asks the boy why he is doing this to himself. She questions whether it is worth working himself to death just to raise his level. She starts to imagine that he only did this to appear before her. But soon she warns that she has already been accepted into the Sky Dome Academy and once again says that they are in different worlds now. Our boy, channeling Saitama, puts on that bored face while listening to this. His colleague, impatient, tells them to shut up and asks how long they plan to keep up that conversation. She says they only came there to get the Blood Moon Flower and that running into them was just bad luck. She orders them to stop with those baseless assumptions. The horrible girl in the back mocks, saying that she is treating as a treasure the same man her sister Ling Shen abandoned, and asks if she is blind. The bootlicker adds that our boy has no skills at all, but he sure knows how to fool a woman. He even says the two look perfect for each other. At that moment, the protagonist's colleague gets annoyed and slaps each one. The director, feeling the blow, asks why he got slapped too. But the girl is a bit irritated with everything they just said. Who gets furious is Ling Shen, who asks why that woman hit her. Then she already draws her blade and starts activating her skill, already asking if she wants to die. But the woman pulls out a talisman and warns that if anyone touches her, they will regret it. The director recognizes the emblem and immediately orders his disciple to stop. In thought, he remembers where he knew her from. She is a daughter of the Xia family. the atmosphere in the place changes. The director becomes more cautious and asks what Miss Ya is doing there. The girl looks at him and tells him not to meddle, warning that she will go wherever she wants. But she leaves a warning, saying that the quality of his students is concerning. The director agrees, takes the blame, and says that later he will teach them all a lesson. Even so, the girl demands that he make Ling Shen apologize to our protagonist. Ling Shen doesn't believe that she is a daughter of Xia Beihai and wonders why she walks around with our boy. The director, however, orders her to apologize. Ling Shen goes to the protagonist and starts apologizing. But inside, she bites with hatred, promising revenge on the Xia family. Our boy waves his hand and says he will let it go. Then he calls his colleague, reminding her that they will be late. But the extra in the back shouts that no one is leaving and demands his spiritual weapon back. Our boy just ignores it, tells him to come get it, and warns that he will be waiting. The lunatic, all busted up on the ground, keeps trying to demand something. A little farther from those people, they find the place, and to be sure, the colleague takes the map, confirms they are in the right place, and tells the boy to be careful. Our boy examines the little knife more closely and details the weapon, impressed. Once again, he thanks his friend for the gift. Then he looks to the side and sees his colleague taking out 2 little balls. He points and asks if she is carrying a treasure chest. The girl, blushing, explains that they are fire and thunder pearls. She says they can seriously injure even someone from the entry realm if caught off guard. And she warns that, if the serpent appears, those could save their lives. Our boy, from a distance, comments that she is full of surprises. Then he says he will take a look at the place. He jumps off the cliff and lands straight in the flowers. The girl can't believe what she sees and states that those are not just any flowers, but rather a twin blood crystal flower, and says they were quite lucky. At that moment, she is surprised because behind our boy appears a small little snake. The boy senses it and looks back. When he realizes it, there is a pig serpent before him. He asks what she is looking at and if she has never seen someone picking a flower. The snake doesn't understand, wondering what that lunatic is talking about. Without thinking twice, the boy starts running and shouts for his colleague not to stand still, telling her to run too. But at that instant, she is already preparing to throw the 2 little balls. Then she throws them at the pig snake and our boy just jumps. It doesn't take long before the little balls explode in that snake's face. The boy feels the impact of the explosion and is thrown far away. The girl, seeing this, asks if he is okay, but lying on the ground, he says that pearl is strong. At that moment, the little snake is knocked out and falls down the cliff. Then he hands the flower to the girl, who becomes very emotional. The boy asks what that flower does. She says that this twin flower is a variation. The common one slows down aging, but the one he picked grants eternal youth. And she asks what woman in this world wouldn't want that. Our boy starts getting up and says he understands. And in thought, he says that surely his mother will want one. Then he jumps again to the spot, and the girl starts wondering if he is going to pick one for her too. She starts smiling, thinking the boy understood. But he picks the flower and already puts it in his bag. At that moment, he hears a scream. The pig snake is back, and it doesn't look happy at all. The girl can't believe the creature survived the explosion. The boy, on the other side, asks if she has more pearls, but the girl shouts that her father only gave her those 2. The snake, furious, is already thinking of attacking the boy, but it doesn't take long before he decides to use his skill, Shadow Butcher, leaving the snake paralyzed with fear, because what it sees is the boy slicing it up. Then he jumps to the other side, grabs the girl's hand and tells her to run. Right after, he asks what she was waiting for. The girl says she wouldn't abandon him, since he picked a flower for her. The boy gives her that look and says he picked the flower for his mother. The girl, hearing this, gets very irritated, but without delay, the snake wakes up and comes to attack the boy again. This time it opens its big mouth. The girl becomes scared and says there's no way to get out of there. The boy gets irritated because bringing the girl along only complicated things. Then he throws her away. At that moment, the snake attacks and tries to swallow him. It doesn't take long. It succeeds and swallows the boy. The girl, thrown to the ground, can't believe what she sees. The little snake already heads in her direction, and desperate, she calls the boy and tells him to show up. The snake opens its mouth again, about to take a bite at her, but suddenly, it starts being cut from the inside. The girl screams, seeing that the boy is slicing the snake from within. It doesn't take long before the boy appears, asking if she was calling for him. The girl, happy, hugs him and says she didn't want him to get hurt because of her. But she quickly notices something and comments that he stinks, warning him he almost became snake mush. A few seconds later, the system appears, notifying that he has slain a special pig. His level is now at 80% toward advancing to apprentice level 8. After seeing the information, he suggests they return. Some time passes and they arrive at the city entrance, where people were already waiting for her. The old man says he was going crazy with worry and was already thinking about forming a search party. But the girl, smiling, says they managed to find something for her mother and that she will surely be happy. The old man replies that if she wanted a flower, she could have just sent a servant to fetch it, reminding her that the area outside the city is quite dangerous. Then the girl explains that she wanted to pick the flower with her own hands to give to her mother and adds that the boy was protecting her, so she wasn't in danger. The old man looks at the boy and evaluates him from head to toe. The boy, staring back, says he is a butcher. The old man, incredulous, wonders if he really killed a blood moon serpent. But his greatest doubt is why Miss Ya asked for help precisely from him. Then he sets that aside, removes his ring, and says the boy has a promising future. He hands over the ring, saying it is worth 200,000, and asks him to accept it as a way of thanking him for saving the young lady. Our boy, seeing this, refuses and says the only thing he wants is a butcher's knife. After all, as everyone knows, our boy is a humble person. The old man can't believe that the only thing this boy wants is just a butcher's knife. In his thoughts, he comments that the kid doesn't even want a good weapon, just a common one, and wonders if the boy has a screw loose. The girl, however, tells her uncle that the only thing he really wants is a better spiritual weapon, since that's what she promised him. The old man understands and says he'll take care of it. He then tells the girl to head back home, since her father is already worried. She says goodbye to the boy and tells him she'll look for him later. The old man thanks him for taking care of the young lady and says he can accept any condition the boy asks for, but he warns that there's one thing he will never accept: having improper thoughts about the girl, since that could end badly for everyone. In his mind, the boy says that's not a problem at all, since the young lady he admires so much looks like a pig in his eyes. He promises he won't get involved with her, since the only thing he wants is a high-level spiritual weapon. That way, the old man feels satisfied with his answer and comments that the best blacksmith in the city is close to their family. He says he'll organize everything to provide the boy with a spiritual weapon. Far away, where the little snake had fallen, a woman appears. She didn't like at all that this human killed her pet and even stole her spiritual herb. She says she memorized the boy's scent and warns that he will pay for it. Then a threatening aura begins to emanate from her. Back with the boy, he decides to take a walk around the city and heads toward a shop. When he reaches the counter, he says he wants to sell some beast materials. The clerk is surprised and comments that she never imagined someone so skinny like him could capture a silver-horned rhinoceros. She says she can pay 10,000 for the item. Hearing that, the boy starts doing the math and says his father earns 100 coins for killing a pig. With a quick calculation, he concludes he would need to kill 100 pigs for that item. At that moment, he looks to the side and sees a shine. He asks the woman if he can buy that item with 10,000. She smiles, praises his good taste, but explains that the golden scale armor is made from scales of a flame serpent. She explains that, besides having good defense, the armor keeps you warm in the cold and cool in the heat. However, she warns that it's a bit expensive, at least 150,000. The boy is surprised and calculates that his father would have to kill 1,500 pigs to gather that amount. The girl in the back doesn't understand much, but the boy doesn't give up. He takes the sword he got from his friend and asks if he can trade it for the armor. The woman, looking at the sword, is surprised. She recognizes it as a yellow-rank, lower-level spiritual artifact. She grabs the armor and starts putting it on the boy, saying it seems tailor-made for him. In her thoughts, she comments that the boy seems to have a high-level combat class and that if she can win him over, her life will be set. She adds that normally the trade would have a fee of 10,000, but since he's handsome, she'll make an exception. The only thing she asks is that he thank her later. The boy, seeing this, seems a little annoyed, but when she asks his class, he quickly answers, "Pig butcher." The woman is shocked and can't believe it. Sometime later, the boy goes home and calls for his mother. He says he got this for her. The woman, surprised, recognizes it as the twin blood crystal flower and asks where he got it. She gives him a serious look and questions if he stole the item. The boy explains that he didn't. He took a walk outside the city, saw two giant snakes fighting, and on the ground found the flower, so he grabbed it and ran away. The woman believes him but says he's crazy and warns that outside the city is very dangerous. She pulls his cheek, asking him not to do that again. To be released, the boy agrees. The father, in the back, smiles and comments that this is his son, but outside they hear yelling. He goes out to see who it is and finds the extra and his father. The crazy one says the boy stole his blade. The boy's father is surprised but believes it must be a mistake, since his son would never do that. He tries to talk in a friendly way, saying the boy is just a pig butcher and wouldn't have a reason to steal. Jackass points at the boy and insists that he himself stole it. Jackass's father gets angry and tells his ex-friend that he can't even raise his own son properly. He adds that he confirmed everything with the principal before coming. Then he asks the old man to question the boy if it's true. The boy stays silent and explains that Jackass tried to kill him, and as compensation he only took his weapon. The boy adds that, if you look at it from another perspective, he actually came out on the losing side. Jackass, embarrassed and angry, says that's nonsense, claiming he only wanted to spar, not kill him. Jackass's father intervenes, saying that out of consideration for the boy's father, he'll only ask for the weapon to be returned and will forget the matter. But the protagonist warns that the item has already been sold. Jackass's father can't believe what he just said. Back there, our boy's father is smiling. The father of that extra starts cursing the boy and tells him to hand over 1 million. The old man in the back says that 1 million is expensive, since it was only a lower-rank yellow-level spiritual weapon. He warns that that weapon is worth at most 200,000. The extra's father gets irritated and says this is not a negotiation. Our boy tries to intervene, but his father stops him, telling him to stay calm, since they will find a way to pay the 1 million. But he asked for some time to get that money. The extra's father warns that, since he can't put sense into his son, he can teach him more hard lessons. However, he warns that he will return in 15 days to collect the money and that they shouldn't complain when he resorts to violence. Those two extras start to leave the place, but the young extra makes a sign saying that our boy is dead. Some time passes and our boy's mother asks her husband what they will do. Since the extra was his friend, she asks him to speak properly with him. The protagonist at that moment tells them to stay calm because he will sort everything out. His father tells him to remain calm and says he isn't angry, but he asks that next time he gets into trouble, to let him know immediately, saying he doesn't need to carry it alone. Our boy is surprised by his father's attitude and in thought, says that he needs to get a spiritual weapon soon, because when he advances to the ascending realm, the extra won't stand a chance against him. His mother approaches and asks if he's hiding something. She warns that the flower he gave is far too rare, saying that a simple pig butcher wouldn't be able to get it. The boy, hearing his mother's words, realizes he can't hide his situation any longer, so he tells them both that he will tell the truth, warning that it is not exactly normal. His parents are surprised and ask what he's talking about. His mother already supposes and asks if he doesn't like women. The boy gets a little upset by the assumption. She continues teasing him and says it's okay if he likes men, because she just wants him to be happy. Back there, his father grins like a madman and says he agrees. She, noticing his joy, tells her son to keep his distance from his father. At that moment, both of them look at her strangely. To end the confusion, the boy explains that he likes neither women nor men. He meant to say that he has a small mental problem. He sees all living beings only as pigs. The parents don't understand and look at each other. The father, surprised, understands the situation and asks if he means that he can slaughter any creature as if it were a pig. The boy shakes his head and says yes. The mother is surprised and asks if that means her son has a combat class, and not an ordinary class. The husband confirms. Then he calls his son and tells him to accompany him, saying it's time to teach him real techniques. When night falls, they go to a certain place. The old man says that after years slaughtering pigs, he created his own style, the butcher's blade art. He warns that from today on he will pass the technique to his son and that if anyone tries to attack him, he will know how to defend himself. The son is worried, since he already caused a debt of 1 million, and asks if he can really learn. The father answers that 1 million is heavy, but nothing compares to the son's safety. The old man says that he, the great Tao, is very simple and slaughtering a pig is too. With the cleaver in hand, he tells his son to pay attention and warns that he will perform 3 strikes. He begins to concentrate and the boy watches closely. The father prepares for the first attack and, with a cry of pride, releases the strike as a demonstration. The attack is so powerful that the clouds covering the sky split. This is the first blade strike he is teaching. The boy widens his eyes and is speechless, impressed. The father warns that the first cut is called Fallen Star. He already prepares for the second strike, making a leap into the air. The boy watches below. Then he releases a powerful lateral attack. The father calls this attack Moonfall. The boy thinks his father is insane and asks how he did that. When he lands, he explains that it is just the space around that is distorting. The father asks for focus and presents the third strike, called Sun Devourer, and releases a powerful attack toward the ground. It doesn't take long and an explosion occurs. The whole place begins to shine as if it were dawn. The boy asks if that is really meant to kill pigs and what kind of pig requires such an attack. The father warns him not to ask questions. One day he will understand. The son, still with his eyes closed due to the light, says he will learn properly. The father asks where the boy's butcher's knife is. He replies that the knife broke. So the father gives his to him and asks him to take care of it. The boy takes the knife, begins to train, but falls backward. Upon touching the ground, he comments that the knife is very heavy. He begins to get up, lifting the knife as well. The father steps back and tells him to have a good training because now he will go back to sleep. In thought, the boy realizes the knife is quite heavy and can't believe his father was using it all this time. He finds that impressive. Trembling, he tries to use the Fallen Star attack but falls and the knife is thrown far away. He doesn't give up and keeps trying. Behind a tree, the father watches and says that one day he will reach the Imperial Sealing Realm, and these 3 cuts will be strong enough to kill celestial beings.